It seems that we are still wrestling with the real meaning of leadership in the context of a disruptive business environment propelled by the digital revolution. Most of the surveys conducted to seek opinions of CEOs tended to be confined to addressing similar issues that leaders have faced previously, notably challenges of human capital attraction, the urgency of getting close to the customer, the need for emphasizing more on innovation, the value and virtues of business partnerships, and the role of technology in delivering a sustainable business. These issues will of course remain in the radar of leaders seeking to create a momentum for the enterprises that they lead, albeit when everything else has changed within the settings of the enterprise itself, but also in the business environment as well. What used to be the penultimate in terms of achieving leadership excellence can now be considered to be a license to practice and a baseline for building real capabilities that can identify with the rigors and requirements of a digital-oriented method of work and an environment that is open system based and operating as an ecosystem. The world of business has changed, and one of the catalysts that has induced the tremendous pace of change is the savviness of the digital customer, who is inspired and whose weapon is the smart connected devices. This digital revolution has brought tremendous challenges to the way businesses are set up and how they gear themselves to provide value for their end customers. Customers now are knowledgeable. They seek more access and more influence on what concerns them, and they evaluate products and services in the context of experiences. They're also not confused about the world that they live in. Indeed, they combine real time between physical and virtual worlds, and they are open-minded about possibilities and transparent about their views and judgments. More importantly, they're not static in their approaches, and they seek to be involved in solving problems, creating opportunities, and engineering their own needs and expectations. The ubiquity of connected devices and smart technology has defined the total life and sets of behavior of the millennial customer generation. Everything they do is in a wider context, be it social, business or need-oriented, work-related, or even conscious-driven. The interplay between the various needs and expectations is extremely high, and the omni-channel opportunity breaks any barriers between various modes of communication and integrates fragmented messages and communications into a cohesive, coherent, and meaningful process insofar as they are concerned. With the speed with which this revolution has taken place, chief executive officers have been taken by surprise, and now they're operating from the back foot, trying to reorganize, re-energize, and even reinvent the way they operate their businesses, but also the way they relate to their customers and the way they think about value in simple terms. The issue confronting CEOs is therefore not necessarily associated with simple needs. The resolving of critical issues, which are extremely specific, in order to overhaul static business organizations and steady the ship for the long term. The real issue is the DNA of the enterprise itself, the purpose that needs to be redefined in a relative sense, and the outlook of businesses, which is now shortening in terms of cycle. It has been mentioned previously in this manuscript that the life cycle of an enterprise now, as compared to the 60s, has shrunk extremely significantly. The obsolescence of technological solutions and management concepts is now real, and the era of commoditization in everything we do, everything we make, and everything we know is also a reality. Change management is now a new science which leaders have to have as one of the critical skills and competencies in order to steer their organizations with confidence and safely towards the desired destinations. The concepts of change itself is now proactive rather than reactive, and focuses not on internal optimization and cost reduction, but more on creating lean enterprises that are customer oriented, with problem solving ability that creates more innovative capabilities. Furthermore, employees in the context of change management are equipped with skills and competencies to induce the change through best practices, knowledge transfer, and creative opportunities that can be translated into customer benefits and thereby give the organization concerned better competitive positioning. Agility in workforce through individual talent is a resource that is critical in this context and can shape the work environment from a project-oriented culture to a change-oriented organization. The previous mindset of treating change as a bolt-on aspect of a static organization that is controlled internally as a closed system is no longer a valid argument. A change now is a total process where the trigger mechanism could come from different sources. At the top of the priority list will be the customers who demand higher standards of quality, more exciting innovations, and with the current era, more fulfilling personalized experiences. Change could also be triggered by technology, which creates bigger possibilities for raising competitive standards and redefining the value creation process. Change could also be induced by analytics and business intelligence that looks at great possibilities and with predictability of the future in mind. Brave and guts leadership will not wait for the external pressure to dictate when the change takes place, but rather they will disrupt in order to create a competitive advantage and widen the gap between them and their key competitors. A very interesting report from Accenture presents the concepts of change in line with the requirements for a modern approach to managing enterprises in an era of significant disruption enabled by the digital revolution. The report suggests that traditional change management techniques should be supplemented with more strategic and comprehensive disciplines in order to manage a transformation program within an enterprise. This has been referred to as life cycle of change, starting with the initial identification of what really drives change all the way to the desired outcomes. It is the responsibility of leaders of transformation to induce change at the right time, in the right way, to the right level, and with the right impact in mind, by asking a series of questions such as the following. What is the case for change across our organization? What are the strategic goals that we are trying to achieve? What is the potential growth outcome if these goals are achieved? What have we got on the go in terms of change programs? And how will the new initiative affect the other projects? What are the critical factors of success when implementing the change initiative? What are the likely implications on people and or the organization from the transition? Similarly, it is the role of senior executives to ensure that they have a clear and vivid description of the future state of the organization that they lead and what possible scenarios might result from the transition and also from reaching the desired state. A series of useful questions could be asked in the context of this stage, including, for instance, what are the leaders' strategic objectives and vision for the future as articulated in their own words? Has the vision been shared with the leadership team on a more widely basis? If there are any differences, have these been reconciled in order to create alignment? Has the future state been articulated in more tangible and measurable aspect so that when the destination is reached, people will know? What current programs and initiatives operating at the moment can help support the achievement of the future state? It could well be that the desired state is far too ambitious and may require different stages of transformational efforts in order to be achieved. Or it may be a futile exercise and the organization in its current state and with the resources that it have or may have access to may not enable it to achieve the desired state. By asking this important question with a series of prompts in order to establish the extent of the gap, this will be useful in making the right decision about the pursuance of this ideal vision of creating a future ambitious, exciting state. Once the capability gaps have been identified, how much change do we have to induce? How can the change program be accelerated through parallel and serial initiatives in the context of a series of initiatives that are interdependent? What is the order of priority and resource requirement? The number of initiatives to be worked on? To what extent will they have negative implications on organizational issues such as people, systems, etc.? What is the level of progress that can be made without interfering with the business as usual operations? This is an important stage for the leadership team. By creating a comprehensive and detailed plan that defines the most critical activities and sets the agenda to be rolled out, in order to start the transformation process. The prioritization aspects are critical because there is a consequence on resource requirements and also on decision making. The creation of this roadmap would require several prompts, including, for instance, the following. What are the type of programs and initiatives, and in what priorities can they be positioned in order to facilitate the transition from current to desired state? What are the interim assessment points for allowing the organization to prepare itself in terms of building capabilities and developing the right behaviors so as the gains can be maintained and the momentum for the change program can be sustained? Is the existing business operating model capable of supporting the specific targets and maintenance of the momentum, or will that require significant change for the transformation to take place? To what extent will the role of leadership be made to complement the new transformational program alongside other strategic responsibilities to proactively monitor the journey of transformation in order to keep the progress on track? The leadership team involved must have dials and metrics in order to measure the progress made and to ensure that there is no derailment of the strategic program itself. Several useful prompts will enable the right decisions in order to ensure that the focus is not lost or interfered with. Is there progress towards the desired state at the pace which was originally set? Are all the existing resourced projects and initiatives supporting the momentum for transformation towards the desired state outcomes? Have any issues emerged which may impede the progress with the new change transformation program, such as change fatigue, budget and resource constraints, and bottlenecks, etc.? Are there any external factors which may impede the progress with the change transformation program? Competition, economic condition, regulation, etc. The aforementioned discussion puts in place a fundamentally important skill that modern leadership must have. It is no longer sufficient to reiterate the operationalization of leadership contributions through tweaking, bolting on new initiatives, and treating change from a micro perspective in the form of projects, initiatives, or even in the context of overhauling major aspects of the enterprise. This tended to be previously done in the context of a closed enterprise system. The new momentum for driving change through transformational thinking requires leaders to be well equipped for scaling up the concept of transformation with more complexity, with agility in mind, and with the necessity to create resilience and gutsiness in coping with the significant disruptiveness caused by the digital revolution. A leadership team that will have these capabilities can then work on a compelling vision dictated by collaboration as opposed to internally controlled and monopolized decision-making progress. And more importantly, the sets of behaviors that will facilitate this process will be to look at the new enterprise as an ecosystem with widely connected key players who can support the transformation and can create relative levels of success through a new mode of creating value.